I told my mother I wasn't coming to Christmas this year, and she said, "Good, because you're not invited anyway." The words hit me like ice water, but honestly, I'd been expecting something like this for months. What I didn't expect was that my entire family had already held a vote about whether I deserved to be part of the holidays, and I'd lost, unanimously. Let me back up, because this didn't start with Christmas. This started the day I told them I was leaving my husband. My name is Rachel, I'm 34 years old, and up until 18 months ago, I was living what everyone in my family considered the perfect life. I had a husband, Marcus, a corporate lawyer. We had a beautiful 4-bedroom house in the suburbs with the kind of kitchen that gets featured in home magazines. I volunteered at the right charities. I hosted dinner parties. I was, by every measure my family valued, successful. Except I was completely miserable. Marcus wasn't abusive in any obvious way. He never hit me, never screamed, but he was controlling in ways that were so subtle, I didn't even recognize them as control until I was already drowning. He decided what we ate, what we watched, who we saw. He monitored my phone under the guise of helping me stay organized. He made me feel like every decision I wanted to make was somehow irresponsible or selfish. And my family? They loved him. My mother practically worshipped the ground he walked on. So when I finally told them I was filing for a divorce, I expected disappointment, maybe some questions. What I got was fury. "You're throwing away a good man," my mother said, her voice sharp as broken glass. "Do you know how many women would kill to have what you have?" My father didn't even look at me, just shook his head and walked out of the room. My younger sister Bridget stared at me like I'd announced I was joining a cult. "This is so selfish, Rachel. What about his feelings? What about the family reputation?" The family reputation. That phrase would come up a lot in the months that followed. But I went through with it anyway. I moved out, got a small apartment downtown, started seeing a therapist. And for the first time in years, I could breathe. I cut my hair short, something Marcus had always hated. I took a pottery class. I stayed up late reading books he'd considered a waste of time. Small things, but they felt revolutionary. And then I met James. James was a bartender at a place near my apartment. He had tattoos of both arms, played guitar in a local band on weekends, and had exactly zero interest in corporate networking events. He made me laugh. Really laugh for the first time in years. He didn't try to fix me or manage me. He just liked me, the actual me, not the version of myself I'd been performing for everyone else. When I told my family I was seeing someone, my mother's first question was, "What does he do?" I should have lied. I really should have. But I was tired of lying, tired of editing myself to make everyone comfortable. So I told her the truth. The silence on the other end of the phone was deafening. "A bartender?" she finally said. And the way she pronounced it, you'd think I'd said a serial killer. "Rachel, honey, are you having some kind of breakdown?" That's when things started to shift. The invitations to family dinners became less frequent. When I did show up, conversations would stop when I entered the room. My sister stopped texting me except for one-word responses. My dad wouldn't make eye contact. But I thought, naively, I now realize, that they'd come around eventually, that they'd see I was happy, and that would be enough. The first real incident happened at my nephew's birthday party in July. I brought James with me. I'd asked my sister if it was okay, and she'd said, "It's a kid's party, Rachel. Bring whoever you want," in this tight voice that should have been a warning sign. But I went anyway because I was trying, really trying, to keep my family in my life. The party was in my sister's backyard, one of those elaborate affairs with a bounce house and a taco bar and coordinated decorations. I spotted Marcus almost immediately. He was there, standing near the grill with my father, both of them holding beers and laughing about something. My stomach dropped. "You didn't tell me he'd be here," I whispered to Bridget when I found her in the kitchen. She didn't even have the decency to look guilty. "He's family, Rachel. We're not going to uninvite him just because you decided to blow up your marriage." I felt James tense beside me. He squeezed my hand and said quietly, "We can leave if you want." But I didn't want to leave. I wanted to prove I could handle this, that I wasn't fragile or making a mistake. So we stayed. For 2 hours, I watched my family fawn over Marcus. My mother kept touching his arm, telling him how good he looked. My dad asked about his latest case. My cousin Jennifer, who'd barely spoken to me in years, was suddenly deep in conversation with him, laughing at his jokes. And James? They treated him like furniture. My uncle asked him to grab more ice from the garage. My mother didn't even acknowledge him when I tried to introduce them. She just looked past him and asked me if I'd thought about what I was doing to my future. The breaking point came when it was time to sing happy birthday. We all gathered around my nephew, and I noticed there was a professional photographer there, someone Bridget had hired to capture the moment. As everyone positioned themselves for the family photo, I moved to stand with James at the edge of the group. "Rachel, can you step in closer?" the photographer called. I moved forward, bringing James with me. That's when my mother put her hand on my shoulder. "Just family in this one, sweetheart," she said, her voice sticky sweet but her eyes hard. I looked at her. "James is with me." "I know, but this is just for the family photo. He can be in the next one." There was no next one. We all knew it. My face burned. I could feel everyone watching, waiting to see what I'd do. James started to step back, trying to make it easier, and something in me just snapped. If he's not in the photo, I'm not in the photo. My mother's smile vanished. "Don't be ridiculous." "I'm not being ridiculous. I'm drawing a boundary." I'll never forget the look on her face, this mixture of shock and rage, like I'd slapped her in front of everyone. But I held my ground. James and I walked to the edge of the yard while they took their perfect family photo, with Marcus right there in the front row, standing exactly where I should have been. We left 10 minutes later. Nobody said goodbye. The text messages started that night. My sister called me dramatic. My mother said I was making everything about me. Even my Aunt Carol, who I'd always thought was kind of cool, sent me a message saying I'd embarrassed the family and owed everyone an apology. The only person who didn't text me was my father. But somehow, that felt worse. I thought that was rock bottom. I thought, okay, this is bad, but we'll work through it. Families fight, families recover. I had no idea what was coming. The second incident happened in early October. My grandmother, my dad's mother, turned 85, and the family planned a big dinner at her favorite restaurant. Despite everything, I was invited. The invitation came through a group text, and I almost didn't respond, but my grandmother had always been good to me. She'd slipped me a note at my nephew's party that said, "Follow your heart, sweetheart." It was the only kindness anyone had shown me in months. So I went. Alone this time. I didn't want to put James through another ordeal. And honestly, I thought maybe without him there, my family might actually talk to me like a human being. I was wrong. From the moment I arrived, I was invisible. Not ignored. That would have been better. I was actively excluded. Conversations stopped when I approached. When I tried to tell a story about something funny that happened at work, my mother literally talked over me to ask Marcus about his recent vacation to Napa Valley. Yes, Marcus was there again. Of course he was. Halfway through dinner, I excused myself to the bathroom. I needed a minute to breathe, to collect myself, to remind myself why I was even there. As I was washing my hands, I heard voices in the hallway outside. My mother and sister, talking in those loud whispers people use when they want to be overheard. "I don't know why she even came," Bridget said. "She's making everyone uncomfortable." "I know, honey, but it's your grandmother's birthday. We have to keep the peace. She's so different now. It's like we don't even know her anymore." That's what happens when you make the choices she's made, when you throw away your values for some fling. I stood there, hands dripping water into the sink, frozen, waiting to hear if there was more. There was. I think we need to have a serious conversation about the holidays, my mother continued. I don't think I can handle her ruining another family event with her attitude. You mean uninvite her from Thanksgiving? I mean, we need to set some boundaries. This family has standards, and if she's not going to respect them, I pushed open the bathroom door. They both jumped, their faces flushing with something that might have been embarrassment if there was any shame mixed in. But there wasn't, just annoyance that I'd caught them. Don't let me interrupt, I said, my voice shaking. Please, keep discussing how I'm ruining the family. Rachel, my mother started. No, you don't get to do this. You don't get to pretend you're keeping the peace while you trash me behind my back. I left an unhappy marriage. That's it. That's my crime. And somehow that's worse to you than Marcus monitoring my phone, than him deciding what I wore and who I talked to, than him making me feel worthless every single day? That's not fair, Bridget said. Marcus never... You don't know what Marcus did because you never asked. None of you asked. You just decided I was the villain because I disrupted your perfect picture. People were starting to notice. I could see heads turning at the table. My father half standing like he might need to intervene. My grandmother watching with these sad, knowing eyes. My mother's face had gone cold. If you're going to cause a scene, I'm not causing a scene. I'm telling the truth. But I can see that's not welcome here. I walked back to the table, kissed my grandmother on the cheek. She squeezed my hand so tightly and left. I didn't say goodbye to anyone else. What was the point? The next day, I was removed from the family group chat. Just gone. Like I'd never existed. I told myself it was fine. I told myself I didn't need people in my life who couldn't support me. James told me his family would love to have me for Thanksgiving, and I tried to look forward to that instead. But it hurt. God, it hurt. The third incident, the one that finally broke everything, happened 3 weeks before Christmas. My mother called me, an actual phone call, which was rare enough that I almost didn't answer. But some small, desperate part of me hoped maybe she was calling to apologize, to bridge the gap, to tell me she missed me. Rachel, hi, she said, and her voice had that brisk, business-like quality she used when she was checking items off a list. My heart lifted a little. Okay, yeah, I was actually hoping we could talk about... I need to know if you're planning to bring that man to Christmas. That man. Not James. Not even your boyfriend. His name is James, Mom. Are you planning to bring him, yes or no? I closed my eyes. I don't know yet. I haven't decided if I'm even coming. Well, that's actually what I'm calling about. Your father and I, and Bridget, and actually the whole family. We've discussed it, and we think it might be better if you sat this one out. You mean uninvite me from Thanksgiving? I mean, we need to set some boundaries. This family has standards, and if she's not going to respect them, my lifestyle choices. I repeated it like I was tasting something rotten. You mean being happy? You mean dating someone who treats me well? We mean flaunting a relationship that goes against everything this family values. We mean leaving a good man and making choices that, frankly, Rachel, we're ashamed of.
There it was, the truth I'd been dancing around for months, finally laid bare. You're ashamed of me, I said flatly. We're concerned about you. There's a difference. No, there really isn't, not the way you're doing it. My mother sighed. That long-suffering sound she'd perfected over years of dealing with what she considered my dramatics. If you want to come to Christmas, you can. But there are conditions. You come alone, you don't mention James, you don't discuss your divorce, and you apologize to Marcus for how you've treated him. I actually laughed. It just burst out of me, this shocked, bitter sound. Apologize to Marcus? For what? Leaving him? for embarrassing him, for dragging his name through the mud, for... I'm not doing this, I interrupted. I'm not coming to Christmas, and I'm not apologizing for finally choosing myself. Then I guess that's your choice. Her voice had gone cold again, that frost I'd become so familiar with. But don't expect us to welcome you back with open arms when you realize what a mistake you've made. Is that what you think is going to happen? That I'm going to come crawling back, begging to be part of a family that treats me like garbage? We don't treat you like garbage. We have standards, Rachel. Maybe you should try having some too. I hung up on her, just pressed the end button, and sat there on my couch, shaking. That's when James came out of the bedroom, having heard the whole thing. He sat down next to me and pulled me into his arms, and I cried, really cried, for the first time since this whole nightmare had started. I'm so sorry, he kept saying. I'm so sorry you're going through this. It's not your fault, I said into his shoulder. You didn't do anything wrong. Neither did you. You know that, right? You didn't do anything wrong. But a part of me wasn't sure I believed that. Because if I hadn't done anything wrong, why did it hurt so much? Why was I the one losing everything? The next morning, I woke up to discover I'd been blocked on social media by my mother, my sister, and 3 of my cousins. Not unfriended, blocked, like I was a threat. And that's when I got angry. Not sad, not hurt, angry, because I realized what they were doing. They were punishing me for daring to be happy outside of their approval. They were trying to make me so miserable, so isolated, that I'd come back and apologize and put my life back in the box they'd decided I should live in. And I was done letting them. I called my mother back. She answered on the 3rd ring, and I could hear the smugness in her hello. She thought I was calling to apologize. I need you to know something, I said, my voice steadier than I'd felt in months. I'm not sitting Christmas out because you uninvited me. I'm not coming because I don't want to spend the holidays with people who think love is conditional, with people who value appearances more than actual happiness, with people who've spent the last year punishing me for leaving a marriage that was slowly suffocating me. Rachel, if you're calling to be dramatic, I'm calling to tell you that I'm done. I'm done trying to earn back a place in a family that should have supported me from the beginning. I'm done shrinking myself to make you comfortable. And I'm done pretending that the way you've treated me is anything close to love. There was silence on the other end. Then you're going to regret this. Maybe, I said, but I doubt it. Because even at my loneliest, I'm happier now than I ever was living the life you wanted me to live. You're being... Goodbye, Mom. I hope you have a wonderful Christmas with Marcus. I'm sure he'll fit right in. I hung up before she could respond. And then I blocked her number. I blocked all their numbers. I was shaking so hard I had to sit down. But underneath the fear and the grief, there was something else. Relief. The days leading up to Christmas were strange. I kept expecting to feel worse, to break down, to regret what I'd done. But instead, I felt lighter. Like I'd been carrying something heavy for so long I'd forgotten it was there, and now it was finally gone.
James's family welcomed me with the kind of warmth I'd forgotten existed. His mother hugged me when we arrived and said, "We're so glad you're here," and meant it. No conditions, no judgment, just genuine kindness. We spent Christmas Eve playing board games and drinking wine that came from a box. His little niece taught me how to play some complicated card game I didn't understand but pretended to anyway. His dad told terrible jokes. It was chaotic and loud and nothing like the formal, tense Christmases I'd grown up with. It was perfect. On Christmas morning, James gave me a small box. Inside was a necklace with a tiny compass charm.
so you always remember which direction you're headed," he said, looking almost embarrassed. I cried, but they were good tears this time. I'd love to tell you my family had some grand realization and came crawling back with apologies, but that's not what happened. Instead, radio silence. For weeks, then months. My grandmother reached out in February, sending me a card with a check and a note that said, "I'm proud of you for being brave." She's the only one. I heard through a mutual friend that my sister is pregnant. I wasn't told directly. I found out on Facebook before I realized I was still blocked from most of the family accounts. It stung, but not as much as I thought it would. Here's what I've learned. Some families can't handle it when you grow beyond the role they've assigned you. They'd rather lose you than admit their version of you was never real to begin with. My family wanted me to be unhappy in the right way rather than happy in the wrong way. They wanted me to stay small and acceptable and quiet. And when I refused, they cut me out rather than question their own values. So, yeah, my family uninvited me for Christmas over my life choices. But honestly, they did me a favor because I spent that Christmas with people who actually see me, who celebrate my happiness instead of resenting it, who understand that love isn't about control or conditions or keeping up appearances. It's been 18 months now since I left Marcus. I have a job I love. I went back to school and became a career counselor, helping other people figure out what they actually want instead of what they think they should want. James and I moved in together last month. We have mismatched furniture and plants we're slowly learning not to kill, and a life that's beautifully, messily ours. Sometimes I drive past my old house, the one with the magazine kitchen, and I don't feel anything. Not longing, not regret, just a distant sort of wonder that I ever thought that version of happiness was real. I won't lie and say I don't miss my family sometimes. I miss my dad's terrible puns. I miss my sister's laugh when she actually let herself be silly. I miss the version of my mother who used to braid my hair and tell me I could be anything I wanted. But those people, if they ever really existed, were replaced by people who'd rather maintain a facade than fight for a real relationship. And I can't make them change. I can't force them to see me. All I can do is keep moving forward, keep building a life that feels true, keep surrounding myself with people who want me to be happy more than they want me to be convenient. So if you're out there listening to this, dealing with your own version of this nightmare, with family who can't accept your choices, your partner, your path, I need you to hear this. You are not the problem. Their inability to support you is not a reflection of your worth. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is walk away from people who make you feel small. And yes, it's going to hurt. Yes, you might spend holidays crying in your car or staring at old family photos wondering what you could have done differently. But eventually, I promise you this, eventually you'll wake up and realize you're not just surviving anymore. You're actually genuinely happy. And that's worth more than all the perfectly staged family photos in the world.